Hello students, today we're doing lesson 6.6 and this is on adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So we have done adding and subtracting with like denominators, adding and subtracting with unlike denominators, and now we're going to do mixed numbers. So really there's just a couple of new things in this that you may not have seen in the past two lessons that we've done. And so this one has 3 examples, but they each have an A and a B, so actually 6 examples that we're going to be going over. Okay, so we're basically going to do this the same as the other ones, except that we have whole numbers in the front. So there are a couple of small details that are different. Okay, so the first one, for example, 1 is 7 5/8. So see how I have a whole number in front, and then I'm going to add 2 3/4. Okay, so normally if these were like denominators, you would just add these 2 big numbers and put 9 and then add the fractions and write whatever the fraction is. Okay, that's not the right fraction though. But this is not going to work exactly like that because we need to find our like numbers. Our like denominators. So I have an 8 and a 4, and I need to find the denominator. So this lesson is not about finding common denominator. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what the common denominator is. But in the last lesson, and you could go back and watch it, we talk about finding the common denominators. So if you forgot how to do that, you can go back and do that. Okay, so the common denominators for these are going to be 8. Now notice how far over I put my fraction. That's because I'm going to carry this 7 and put it right here in a minute. But first I want to find my new numerator. Okay, this one doesn't change. So if the bottom doesn't change, then the top doesn't change, right? But this one does. We have 4 times 2 is 8. So 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, now that I have my common denominator, now I'm going to bring over my whole numbers because I don't want to forget those, and that's something that happens often is kids forget to bring those over. So now I add my whole numbers, then I add my numerator, so that 5 plus 6 is 11, and my denominator stays the same. Now notice this 11/8, we always have to put this into lowest terms, and then 9 11/8 needs to be put into lowest terms. So this is an improper fraction, so I need to change it into a proper fraction. Now I'm going to do something over on the side here, which I don't usually do, but I'm going to show you why I'm doing this, is if I were changing this into a mixed number, 8 goes into 11 one time, 3 are left over, and 8 stays on the bottom. So now I'm going to take that 1 3/8, which is what this is, right? This is 1 3/8. I'm going to put it with the 9. So I put the 1 with the 9, and that makes 10 3/8. Now that's a lot of explaining because this is notes. But the other way to do that is just to start here and say 8 goes into 11 one time, and then you add that 1 to the 9, so that makes 10. And then how many are left over? 3/8. So you really don't have to do this part down here if you can do that other part in your head. Okay, so there's my answer, 10 3/8. Okay, part B. We're just going to go along with this pretty quickly because a lot of this you've already seen or know. Okay, part B has 3 numbers to it, so I have 6 2/3. And we did one like this in our last lesson where we had to do 3 different numbers, plus 3 1/4, plus 2 5/6. Okay, so I'm going to find a common denominator for 6, 4, and 3, and I know that is 12. Okay, if you know your multiplication number or multiplication facts, you can usually find this very quickly. Okay, so up at the top, I'm going to find my missing numerator. So 3 times 4 is 12, right? So I'm going to do 2 times 4, which makes 8. That's a times. Okay, then 4 times 3 is 12. So 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 2 is 12. So 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, now I'm going to bring over my big numbers. I just bring them over last because they kind of get in the way of seeing what I'm doing. You can do them at any point. Okay, and now I'm going to add up my whole numbers. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus another 2 is 11. Then I add up all my numerators. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 10 is 21, all over 12. Okay, now I can see that this needs to change, right? I need to put in lowest terms. I am running out of room on my screen, so it's going to go below it. So 12 goes into 21 only one time, so that's going to change the 11 to a 12. And then how many do I have left over once I take out that 12 from the 21? Is I will have 9 left over, and 12 goes on the bottom. Okay, and then one more time, I need to check and say, can this still be simplified? So is there a number that both 9 and 12 can be divided by? Yes, there is. It's 3. So I'm going down below again. I get 12 and 3/4. And that's my answer to example 1 part B is 12 and 3/4. So if I'm going too fast, remember, go back and rewind and watch it over again. Or you might want to watch this and then do an example in your book that's like this, that's assigned for homework. And then you can kind of go back and forth with that. Okay, example 2 is going to be subtracting. And in this subtracting one, in A and B, I'm going to teach you how to borrow with fractions. So some teachers and some different books tell you to do these different ways, okay? So there are different ways to do this. I'm going to teach you my way because I think you make less mistakes. There's always mistakes with subtracting. There's always mistakes when you have to borrow, even in regular numbers. So there's going to be mistakes in fractions also. But I'm going to teach you how to do this without with borrowing. Okay, so first one, part A, is 6 minus 3 5/8. Okay, so the most common problem here is that kids just subtract and they say, oh, this is just 5/8. I just bring it down. And then I subtract 6 minus 3. And that is not the answer. So let me show you what to do. If I was subtracting 5/8 from nothing, there's nothing here, right? Okay, I can't do that. If I was doing 500 minus 199 is I can't take 9 away from 0. I would have to borrow. So that is what I'm going to do here is I'm going to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from the 6. So that will make it 5, right? So I borrowed 1 whole. So over here on the fraction that I want to make, I'm going to make this equal a whole. So what does 1 whole equal? Well, 1 whole can equal 2 over 2, right? That equals 1. What about 3 over 3? Yep, and 5 over 5. All of these fractions equal 1. What about 100 over 100? Yes, all these fractions equal 1. So all these fractions are the same number. They're all 1. So I can make this fraction whatever I want as long as it equals 1. So I'm going to make it 8 over 8. Why did I pick 8 over 8? I could have picked 5 over 5 or 100 over 100. The reason I picked 8 over 8 is because I want them to have the same denominator. Because we can only subtract or add when we have the same denominator. So I made that 1 that I borrowed over here, I made it into 8 over 8. So now I have 5 and 8/8, right? That equals 6. Now I can subtract. So 8 minus 5, subtracting the numerators, is 3/8. 5 minus 3 is 2. And then I'm done, except I need to ask myself, can I simplify any further? The answer is no on this one. So my answer is 2 3/8. Okay, now I'm going to erase all of this. Okay, and now we're going to do hold on, let me get this completely erased. Now we're going to do the part B. Okay, so part B is another fraction one where we're going to have to borrow, but this one's different because it's not going to have a blank. Okay, we have 4 1/4 minus 2 2/3. So right now I can't just subtract it. I need to find a common denominator. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did up at the top once. I'm going to leave a little bit of space. And I know my common denominator for 4 and 3 is 12. So I'm going to do 4 times 3 equals 12 and 1 times 3 equals 3. Okay, 2 times 4 equals 12. So 2 times 4 equals 8. And now I'm going to put my whole numbers in front. Okay, now when I go to subtract, I say 8 taken away from 3. I can't do that. That is a subtraction. That's where I need to borrow. Okay, so I can't take 8 away from 3 because 3 is too small, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from the 5. That's going to make it 4. And then how I decide what I'm going to borrow here is the same way I did here. So that one that I borrowed is going to be 12 over 12 because this is 12. So see how this 4 and 12 over 12 equals 5? Okay, so now I'm going to put that 12 over 12 with the 3 over 12. So what does 12 over 12 with 3 over 12 equal? It's going to be 15 over 12. Okay, so now I have 4, and 15 over 12. Okay, so now I'm going to, I know this looks messy, okay, and I'm going to show you another one. I'm going to do this again in a minute, and it's going to look a little bit neater. Okay, so now I have 4 minus 2 is 2. I have 15 minus 8 is 7, all over 12. Okay, so do I need to simplify? 7 and 12? No, there's nothing those can go into. So my answer is 7 and, 2 and 7/12. Okay, I'm going to redo this problem and not show as much of a mess here. I'm going to show you an easier way to do it. Okay, so part B, and I'm going to start from right here. So I had 5 and 3/12 minus 2 and 8/12. And now here's the easy way to do borrowing with fractions. First of all, I do have common denominators, so don't forget that step. But I'm going to borrow from the 5. And when I borrow from that 5 and make it 4, over here, all I have to do to change this top number is I just have to go 12 plus 3 equals 15. So now I have 15 over minus 8, which is the 7/12, and 4 minus 2, which is 2. Okay, same answer I got here. The shortcut is when you borrow, then you add the bottom plus the top, and that's your new numerator. Okay, I don't know if we're going to do another one. That one, I might just... Oh, example 3 is one where I'm going to have you do it on your own and then come back and check with me. So let's do those. And I don't know if there's any borrowing. Sometimes there's not borrowing. So don't think that every time you have a subtraction problem, you're going to borrow. But it does happen. So that section was showing you how to borrow. Now on example 3, I'm going to have you do these two on your own. There's no borrowing on this one. Well, the first one's addition. So let's do A, 3 1/3 plus 1 1/2. Okay, so I want you to hit pause, work this one out on your own, and then come back and watch me work it out. So go ahead and hit pause now. Okay, so you should be back. You should have already solved these problems on your own. You really need that practice doing it on your own. So make sure that you've done that. Okay, my common denominator is 6. And then I have 3 times 2 is 6, so 1 times 2 is 2. Down here, 2 times 3 is 6, so 1 times 3 is 3. Bring over my whole numbers, and always look to make sure that you're adding or subtracting. That's probably more missed than even the borrowing, is that kids don't look at the add or subtract. If they've done a couple of adding, then they make their problem adding and don't look. Okay, so plus 3 plus 1 is 4. 2 plus 3 is 5, 6. Can I simplify that anymore? No, that is in lowest terms. So that one is done. Hopefully you got that one right. Okay, part B, you're going to do this one on your own. 3 1/5 minus 2 2/3. So this one might be borrowing, okay? So go ahead and hit pause on the video and then come back and watch me solve it. Okay, so first we're going to find a common denominator. Now, if you got confused and you were like, oh, I don't know what to do next, you can always just watch me step by step. When I've shown you the step you forgot, you didn't know how to do, then hit pause again and try to finish the problem if you didn't finish it in the first place. Okay, so my common denominator for 5 and 3 is going to be 15. Okay, and then let's see, that means 5 times 3 is 15, so 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15, so 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, then I'm going to bring over my numbers, and now I say, can I take 10 away from 3? No, I can't, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from this 3. That makes it 2. And then the shortcut is this 3 is going to be 15 plus 3 is 18. Now I can subtract my numerators. 18 minus 10 is 8/15. 2 minus 2 is 0. We do not write a 0 there. Okay, we're just going to leave it 8/15. Can this be simplified anymore? No, it cannot. There's no more. 8 and 15 cannot be divided by the same number, so we get 8/15. And that's it for this section. So if you start doing your homework and you don't understand something, or you're saying, I don't remember how she did borrowing, then come back and watch the video over, or just watch the section that you need help with. That's it. Bye.